Miyetti Allah stirs the hornet's nest. Wow, so they're stirring the dust again, they're stirring an issue again. Let's see what they are stirring up again and what it will lead all of us to. Demand by Miyetti Allah Kutal Hall for the gazetting of 415 grazing routes in the country has sparked a fresh row, with insinuations about a plot to introduce some unpopular legislation through the back door. Right, Bola Madmos, Isaac Shobayo, and John Kennedy Uzoma. So they're trying to push the government, the lawmakers, to gazette 415 grazing routes in Nigeria, meaning they want to make sure that they're everywhere, and they want to pass a back door to put it in our law or in our constitution. So Nigerians should be sleepy. Meanwhile, the lawmakers have been bribed and they'll be doing something different at the back door. That is what they want to do. I think Nigerians need to shine their eyes as this issue is coming up. Let's see how they are expatiating this. He said, with the build-up to the 2023 general election beginning to take shape, different groups and organizations are making multifaceted demand from the political parties and their candidates. While some of the demands have been real, others have been sublime and imaginary. The demands are going against the unveiling of manifestos by candidates of the major political parties. Simulated events designed to pressure the candidates to look at their directions are being put together by non-professional groups that have been in the news for good or bad reasons in the political space in the last few years, right? Issues bordering on restructuring. So some of the things people are putting together and submitting to the candidates as follows. Issues bordering on restructuring, socio-economic political reforms, establishment of state police, and fiscal federalism are among the demands of ethnic nationalities making up the country. But the leadership of the Miyetti Allah Kutal Hall, a FULAN1S socio-cultural association, has introduced a weird twist to the plethora of demands by sundry groups. Rising from a meeting on Monday, the body tabled its own terms that government and communities must take to restore lasting peace, unity, and tolerance among farmers and herders in various troubled communities in the midst of frenzied preparation for the general election. And one of the conditions is immediate designation, gazetting, and development of 415 grazing reserves across the states of Nigeria. It was among the key resolutions contained in the communique of the expanded National Executive Council meeting of the body under the leadership of its National President Alhaji Bello Bodejo. The designation, gazetting, and development of all the grazing reserves according to the organization is the only first strategic step in addressing the challenges confronting Fulani herders in the country. The National Secretary of the Association, Saleh Al-Hassan, who read the communique at a press conference in Abuja, added that the National Executive Council demanded an end to the alleged profiling of pastoralists, particularly by a governor, through an alleged satanic anti-grazing law, warning against imminent self-help options if the police top hierarchy failed to set up a panel to unmask those responsible for the alleged killing of some pastoralists in Taraba State to ensure justice is done to the victims' families. Miyetti Allah disagreed that farmers-herders conflict constituted a major catalyst for instability and insecurity in the country. Now, what appears to be most curious to other stakeholders in the country was the demand for a federal ministry of nomadic affairs with a mandate to broaden educational opportunities and address pastoralist challenges across the country. For the 2023 election, it declared that its Political Awareness and Mobilization Directorate had been directed to embark on massive enlightenment campaigns and voter education. In few weeks to come, we would hold a peaceful rally to take a position on our choice candidate for the forthcoming presidential election. Meanwhile, our people have been mobilized to register and obtain their permanent voters card ahead of the elections, it stated. The dust raised by the conditions listed by Miyetti Allah has continued to elicit reactions from prominent mass-based organizations in the country. The Ohanaeze Ndigbo, Afenifere, and the Middle Belt Forum, in separate views, expressed indignation. Pan-Yoruba group Afenifere said it is regrettable that a seeming non-governmental organization could have the effrontery to dictate the terms for peace in the country. And according to Afenifere, through his spokesperson, Comrade Jare Ajayi, the tone of the communique of Miyetti Allah is contemptuous because it appears as if Miyetti Allah or those it speaks for are above other groups in the country. The tone of the communique by Miyetti Allah is contemptuous. It has though the body and or those it speaks for are above other groups in the country. It has though the laws. It is as though the laws by which they operate are different from the ones that the rest of us are governed by, Afenifere said. Pan-Yoruba organization wondered why any group or individual could still be calling for the restoration of the assumed grazing reserves, advising whoever wants to operate ranches to follow the laws governing private businesses, assuming without conceding that there were grazing reserves. Questions would certainly arise regarding the circumstances of creating the 415 assumed reserves that Miyetti Allah is talking about. Livestock farming is like any occupation. In a capitalist system, the type we run in Nigeria, it is a peddler of a particular trade or business who would invest in the business. We are not begrudging livestock farmers, but they should stop the habit of demanding special treatment in a multicultural and multi-ethnic society like Nigeria. So if there had been a thought of grazing reserves in the past, Nigeria of today cannot afford earmarking public funds for a project that would serve not only a narrow interest but cause disaffection across the country. The possibility of such causing violence between farmers and herders too cannot be ruled out, Afenifere stated. The organization described as condemnable the disparaging manner by which Miyetti Allah referred to state governors who enacted anti-open grazing law. It restated, the governors made laws that they believe will serve the best interests of their people. So if you cannot operate under the laws of a given state, you can move to other states. Afenifere has been unrelentingly agitating for the restructuring of the country. So if the country is restructured and true federalism is in place, each section would be in a position to implement policies it considered as best suited for its people. Another prominent group, Oduduwa People's Congress, OPC, frowned at the seeming arrogance of Miyetti Allah to give conditions for peace in the country, describing such requests as not only criminal and treasonable, but a clear call for disunity. The publicity secretary of OPC, Mr. Yinka Oguntimehi, alleged that the set of demands by Miyetti Allah was an admission that the association could not absorb itself from the core challenges besetting the country. Besides, Oguntimehi alleged that its declaration further gave credence to the purported attempt by Miyetti to grab ancestral lands of the indigenous people of Nigeria through the back door in the guise of prospering a private business scheme. He therefore called on federal and state government to outlaw the association. Wow. The Igbo umbrella organization Ohanaeze Ndigbo, with its president, General President General Professor George Obiozor warned that Igbo had no land to give out for grazing. Obiozor insisted that those who want to carry out their grazing business should buy land, describing the lands in the southeast as ancestral lands owned by families or even the deity. So he said it is not in our character to just give out land to anybody that enters our area. And according to him, the people of the southeast also buy land when they want to carry out their businesses, adding that the Miyetti should do the same. That is what we do when we want to do something with land. So they should go and buy land where they can for their grazing business. Similarly, the Middle Belt Forum faulted the Miyetti Allah on the conditions it demands to guarantee peace in all the troubled communities. The national president of MBF, Dr. Bitrus Pogu, likened the demands as subtle threats by the group to coerce the federal government to do its bidding. Right, to do its bidding and further an expansionist agenda. Pogu noted by giving such conditions for peace, they are fishing for trouble. All this while every community has exercised restraint. Conflict has displaced many people from their ancestral communities and lands. And the government has continued to look the other way round as if they are special people. The government's attitude in this regard has further emboldened them. And by giving this condition for peace, they are calling for serious trouble. And all along, we have been telling the government that every community knows their local FULAN1S. If the government provides the right policies and enabling environment, the local FULAN1S will be accommodated without any problem, and they can change their lifestyle from nomadic to ranching. Wow. But the FULAN1S nomads said they will not go by modern techniques. We have to bend and accept the rules. Some of them have continued to bring people from other African countries. We have tolerated them for a long time. We are waiting to see how the government will handle these conditions and threats. He advised the group not to push communities in Nigeria to the wall to avoid consequences. Concerning the demand that the 415 grazing reserves should be developed and gazetted, Pogu said they cannot impose their ways of life on us. It will not be acceptable. The modern way of animal husbandry is ranching. Population growth is there, and there is no free land in Nigeria. Every nationality has their own territory. Let the government bring out a policy that will accommodate everyone. On the threat to resort to self-help if the Inspector General of Police did not unmask those responsible for the killing of pastoralists in Taraba State, I want to say that the threat is not new. They have been resorting to self-help. He implored the federal government to come up with a comprehensive policy that is not discriminatory. And according to the MBF leader, the government needs to do the needful. Government is not for nomads or farmers. Before Nigeria became a country, every community in Nigeria had their own territory, and that territory was defined. The government needed to do the right thing. Wow, this is a serious one. So Miyetti Allah and their group went into their own meeting, a national executive meeting, and came out with two serious demands. Just like every other Nigerian and every other ethnic group is also placing demand on their own presidential candidates or the incoming government as well. Now they came up, this Miyetti Allah group came up now saying that they must develop and gazette 415 grazing routes in the country. Failing to do so, the Miyetti Allah will resort to self-help. What does that mean? And they must do that if peace must reign in Nigeria. Those are key words that show that they are the people destabilizing Nigeria. These are the ways they are trying to see that they entrench their dynasty in every state in Nigeria. That was how they started last time to install their own emirs in each state. And some gullible state governors allowed it to happen. Why most state governors did not allow it to happen? So all their plans for the past 7.5 years to FULAN1S Nigeria actually has not worked, and they are running out of time. So now that they see another government is coming, that they are now beginning to ferment and brew fresh trouble that we greet the new government after the election 2023. And the new trouble now is to bring in the grazing route again. And Nigeria should be wise, because what they're going to do is to go and bribe the lawmakers and pass back door and gazette this thing. Before you know it, a document will come out that this has been gazetted. They don't even care backdating it. Because one of the problems we have is that our own Southwest, Southeast, and South-South politicians in the House of Rep and Senate are so gullible and weak that they can just absorb anything that comes to them because of their selfish interest and the party agenda they are all executing at that level. But thank God this has been reviewed, and every Nigerian will be serious about it. All right? So people are making comments here. I'll just take a few comments, maybe 2 or 3. Somebody said, these foreigners called Fulani are bold and audacious. Yes, because the government on board is government of foreigners, it's government of Fulanis. That is why they are so audacious. Now, another person saying, this is because all security agencies in Nigeria are dominated by Fulanis. No thanks to Buhari. Otherwise, what is their strength, population, and military prowess except terrorism? And that is true. The only reason they are excelling is because the current government of Nigeria, every facet, every major parastatal in Nigeria, they have been dominated by them. And that is why the Boko Haram returnees, the people that repented from Boko Haram Terrorism Act, were just forgiven and then recruited into the military, wore them the military uniform and gave them rifle and integrated them to the military. And that is why the fight against terrorism today is not successful and will never be successful under this government. It will never be successful. All right? It's unfortunate that things like this are happening in Nigeria. Some people can now see the reason Samuel Otom of Benue State says he will never support any Fulani man to be Nigerian president. Yes, Samuel Otom said he will never support any Fulani man as a president. He said it. And this is the reason, because he has seen their secret, he has seen their plan, and he has revealed them to Nigerians. But Nigerians are still docile. All the rest 35 governors are docile. All the regions are docile. Now the man's life is being threatened. And that is why he said the other day that he has written his will and has given to his wife. So even if he dies, fighting the real cause to protect his people, no blame, no problem. So Tom has been talking, but nobody wants to take him serious because they're all playing party politics and want to get what they want. It's unfortunate. Somebody said here, it must be emphasized that these Miyetti fellows are just one out of 500 tribal groups. They have enjoyed the privileges government conferred on them for quite some years now. Their grazing had resulted in atrocities and crimes against humanity with impunity. But we will document them. Now that victims, relations, and survivors did not react and go on the defensive, right, must not be seen by Miyetti Allah as their triumphalism. Nigeria could have been sunken if there was revenge or retaliatory offensives. However, to issue blackmail routinely to indigenous Nigerians who have been at the receiving end of their atrocities be adding salt to injury, their sponsored ascendancy draws to a close. So it means that all these things they are doing is because Nigerians have not reacted. If Nigeria had reacted and fight them back with all the atrocities that they have committed in the past 7.5 years, Nigeria would have been destroyed by now. But they're pushing that to a limit. If they continue to do that, people will resort to their own self-help as well in their various communities. And we'll see how that will help. Let Nigeria continue to use the defense team, that is the military, to fight every community that fight Miyetti Allah. Because that's what they're doing in Nigeria. Every community that retaliates and fight back against the headsmen, the government will send the military to go and blow that community, like what they have done in Olo, in Imo State, what they have done in so many southeastern states, what they have done in Ondo, which is very bad. What they have done in everywhere people fight against Miyetti Allah and fight against grazing in their land, the government will send military to that place. They have done that in Plateau State. They've done that in Benue State. Almost all the states. And that is why the Boko Haram and this one are gaining ground in the whole country, collecting land from communities, collecting tax from them, forcing them into Islam, telling them when they should go to their farm and when they should leave, collecting everything from them. And the government is looking the other way around. It's unfortunate. It's going to fail. They're already out of time. It will fail. It will fail. So I'll stop here for now. Just make your comment and see what the Miyetti Allah is planning from now into the election and after the election.